Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, October 3rd, 2015. Mr. Clerk, would you do the honors of the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Be advised that in accordance with the presidential proclamation and as ordered by Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, the United States flag and the Commonwealth flag shall be flown at half-staff at all state buildings beginning immediately until sunset Tuesday on October 6, 2015, in honor of the victims of the tragedy in Roseburg, Oregon on October 1st, 2015. Additionally, the United States flag and the Commonwealth flag shall be flown at half-staff at all state buildings from sunrise until sunset Tuesday, October 6th, in honor of Sergeant Christopher Y. Vares, United States Army of Reading, Mass., who was listed as missing in action while fighting the enemy in North Korea on November 29, 1950. Sergeant Vares was a recipient of many awards, including Purple Heart, POW MIA medals, the Combat Infantryman Badge, the Korean Service Medal, United States Nations Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and several others. The sergeant's remains will be returned to the United States on Wednesday, September 9, 2015, and will be buried with full military honors. Woman assignments, please. Thank you very much. Mr. Big Host. All right, for tonight's meeting, 6:35 updates, MAPC submit green communities application. B, Little Box Solar, Littleton Electric Department rate structure. C, the Permanent Municipal Building Committee, Council on Aging Kitchen. 7:15 inputs, both public and members. 7:30 public hearings, non-alcoholic license, common particular license for Great Road Hospitality, Inc., Mark Palmer, manager, doing business as Great Road Kitchen, The Point, 613 Constitution Ave. Our next public hearing is at 7:45. Public hearing on the K property, Grimes Lane, whether to exercise or waive the first right of refusal under Mass General Law C-61B- for 43 acres for the sum of $850,000. Special town meeting, special town election votes are also required to exercise. 8:15, town administrator and Scott's cool music.
Just to build up some excitement.
For the town administrator, assistant town administrator, finance and budget, November 2nd, special town meeting recommendations, bills of prior fiscal years, fiscal year 2016 budget amendments, Nagog Hill Orchard leases, town bylaw, discharge of municipal stormwater drains, adoption of stormwater regulations to comply with 2003 EPA permits. 8:45 other business, Selectmen's administrative policy procedure, agenda procedures. B would be minutes approval, and then 9 o'clock we're going into executive session, strategy with respect to litigation on the tax title properties, 204, 206 Foster Street. All right, so updates, MAPC, Mr. Bergman.
Hold on, can I just
the
go
mail.
through the mail?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
just-
I apologize
Thanks
for
very
that.
much, Mr. Chairman. Just a few items. First, we received a letter from the state's Division of Local Services, which outlines in some greater detail what the Commonwealth will be providing us by way of assistance under the Community Compact that was signed last month, that we have three projects, one for transportation, that is the Crosstown Connect project, also public safety, development of a strategic plan, and economic development of a marketing plan. So we'll be working with the state on each of those. And I should mention with respect to the transportation one for Crosstown Connect, also in your packet was the awards program from the ICMA convention that was held last week in Seattle, where the 5 administrators and managers for the Crosstown Connect Communities received ICMA's award. And for those that were here earlier, I passed around 20 years ago, I got my first award, and I haven't, and I look exactly the same. So,
Yeah, not
Just 40
quite.
years,
Yeah,
just
not-
40 years older.
yeah, the tie looks a lot older, but, so we're very grateful for the recognition that we could bring to our communities for this effort, which is going to do an awful lot of good for each town and for the region, so we're very excited about that. Also in the packet, when I got back from Seattle and the conference, then I had on Friday, was presenting at a housing conference on 40B. The topic was proactive planning to achieve safe harbor, which is the euphemism for when you comply with 40B. So I've included in the packet here the presentation I made, and that information is also available online. In the packet, we have a momentous communication we received from Scott Edwards at the Littleton Electric Light Department, and it was just a short email, but it was important to include in the packet, which was that there's the request regarding Littleton Common for a short-term fix that involves some kind of temporary structure. It will not be that you found a workaround. You found
Yes.
another solution
Yep.
to it, so we won't need the temporary structure, and we're grateful about that. And maybe just take a minute or so to say what you did.
Well, when the contractor put the conduit down Meeting House Road, it was not our contractor, it was for the light tower. Phoenix did it. It was kind of a rush job. So at that point, we kind of jumped in the trench with them, and they added the conduit for us, and they swept it into the common. And, that was, kind of planning ahead on a real quick basis. They didn't give us much notice. So our request to put the switch there and the temporary cabinet, after our meeting, and you granted us the temporary measure there, we kind of started thinking, maybe we should just dig this back up if we can and put the conduit straight down Meeting House Road, not even turn it into the common for the temporary measure. So luckily they did it in a way that we were able to kind of undermine their conduit, get into ours, and put it right through. So for this winter, we will have the temporary feed down to Great Road toward IBM. So it worked out. It'll work out well.
Great, thanks.
So-
We'll still need to work on a longer-term solution, but
Yeah, for the
Really
switch, but
appreciate your-
it gives us some time.
That's great.
Gives us some breathing room, that's for sure.
Nice job.
thank you. Well
Nice
done.
job.
Also in the packet, we received a communication from the Massachusetts Fire Service Commission reporting that our fire chief, Scott Wazinski, has been accredited by that commission as a fire chief in the Commonwealth, so we congratulate Scott on that.
Chief, please stand, Chief.
The real chief.
There we go.
I was stalling until he got here, because
Get to wear the helmet now, Scott?
so, for the suspenders, right? Are they red?
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have, also, we actually came in from the state today, and I will lump this together. We received notice from the Department of Environmental Protection of the award of a grant, a recycling grant for $2,600 under their Sustainable Materials Recovery Program. We'll have more information on that in the
Nice.
future from Mr. Clyde. Appreciate
Fantastic.
that. We also have letters of resignation from a couple of board members. Chris Simone, who has served recently on the Council on Aging, has submitted his resignation, saying it's an honor and a privilege to serve Littleton seniors, and we all feel that way about that, too. So we've got folks from COA here tonight. And after a long service on our Zoning Board of Appeals, Bill Farnsworth has submitted his resignation, which will be effective later this month. So in that case, we have a couple of full member resignations on the ZBA, and that we'll need to schedule some agenda time at an upcoming meeting to fill those vacancies.
Get a letter off to these folks?
Yes, we sure will. And lastly, we got an information bulletin from the Mass Municipal Association to let us know that the public records law will likely be coming up for a vote
And I
this
know
month.
at one of our meetings, I was tasked to come up with some type of policy, so
We're just going to wait to see.
we're just going to
what
wait
the
to
new
see
law is.
what the
Yeah.
law says, and then we'll come up with a policy to be presented to the entire board. But before we move on, Chief, why don't you tell the folks what your credentials and what you had to go through to achieve what we were just notified of?
It's a whole combination of education, different certifications, years of service, organizations that you belong to, different, like the National Fire Protection Agency, arson investigation team, a whole variety of organizations and years of service, all culminate together to give you the amount of points that it requires to get to that level for certification. And once you receive it, you need to have 70 points every 3 years. So
Kind of like a
continuous
continuing
education.
ed type of thing?
Exactly. And you keep up with that over every 3 years to recertify.
Nice. So it just goes to show the commitment that, our fire chief has in the fire service and to the town, so we really appreciate your stepping forward and doing that, so thank you again. All right, moving on. MAPC, Green Communities Application. Pete?
Oh, sure. We have with us tonight Axum Tefera from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, and their Energy Division. And Axum has been brought to us through a grant we got from MAPC to help us put together. Actually, they gave us grant money to do 2 projects. One was our Green Communities application, which we're voting on tonight. The other is updating our open space and recreation master plan, which we'll be voting on later this fall. And Axum's work has been to put together our application for green community certification. There's an awful lot. I have to say, I'm not sure how we could have undertaken this task without the assistance of Axum and MAPC. The other critical players in this were the Littleton Electric Light Department, that without Scott and Nick and the time that they spent on putting this together, as well as a team, Dave Riley at the school department, all of the facility managers, there was, and department heads, an awful lot of work went into satisfying the requirements of the Green Communities program. There are 5 criteria in order to be certified. Some of them we've talked about before. I'll take them in order. Criteria 1 is as-of-right siting. 2 is expedited application. Both of those are tests which through town council's efforts, we found that we met with our existing zoning bylaw, that the state standards for how your zoning bylaw needs to read, ours already satisfies that, so there was no additional work we needed to do. Energy reduction plan, number 3, fuel efficient vehicle policy, number 4. Those 2 work products are ones which have come from the work that Axum and the Light Department have come up with. Criteria 5, stretch energy code, is the one component that required action by town meeting, and we brought that to the voters in May, and they approved our adoption of a bylaw establishing the stretch energy code. So in tonight's vote, to authorize submission of the application that meets all 4 of those, or all 5 rather, of those criteria, that the new work products, which we've distributed drafts now and shared them widely over the last couple of months, but the 2 final work products are the energy reduction plan and the fuel efficient vehicle policy. In the case of the energy reduction plan, the critical information that needed to be gathered was from a series of updated facility assessments that were undertaken with the support of the electric department. I think there was some tens of thousands, was it $40,000?
40, yeah.
$40,000 worth of updating of our facility studies with an eye towards what their energy efficiency was. And those became the building blocks for the energy reduction plan. The goal, the statutory goal, is for a community to commit to reducing its energy consumption by 20% over a 5-year period. Now, right now, there's no penalty if you don't. There are plenty that have come online 5 years later, but what you do get upon submission of your application is a formula that gives an amount of money to your community. In Littleton's case, it's $140,000, which we will receive upon certification, upon approval of our application, which gets submitted later this month. The energy reduction plan shows over a period of 5 years what steps would need to be taken in order to achieve the 20%. That's our snapshot of right now where we think we can reduce it based on the studies that have been done. We get to review that every year of the plan to see if there were some things that were more efficient than others, if there are other steps that we need to take. But what the application also has to include is how are we going to spend the $140,000? And since there's been great participation from a number of the departments, including the school department as well as the light and water and the town departments, that we and through Scott and Nick's number crunching, we came up with a distribution of funds of that $140,000, which would go to schools in one case, water in another, and to the general town departments in another case. So each of those three will have projects that we'll be able to undertake as set forth in the plan. The last part is the fuel efficient vehicle policy. At this point, it's a rather standard policy, which any community that has been awarded green community status already has in place. That's most of our neighbors. I think Boxborough may be the only of our neighbors that has not been certified as green. The Boxborough story is, well, I won't get into it here, but if anyone is watching, well, no one's watching here from Boxborough, but if we could find a customer of an investor-owned utility in Boxborough, then Boxborough would pre-qualify for green community status. Scott Edwards found in Littleton, about a year ago, that there was, I think, we found three customers of an investor-owned utility, and that was enough to pre-qualify us to submit the application without the light commissioners having to adopt the surcharge that private utilities pay in to the state. So anyway, it's been a lot of joint effort. It's been a lot of collaborative progress that we could not have made but for MAPC, the light department, school department, and the other departments. It's been a long process and absolutely more than we could have ever undertaken on our own.
So that being said, is the 140 a one-time funding source, or is it available per fiscal year?
We are eligible on a competitive basis every year thereafter. And in year one, you get the formula grant, and in every future year, you are eligible competitive funding, which I know many of our neighbors have been pretty successful. Acton, for example, I think has routinely got, among many others, have gotten subsequent year funding. So we have every expectation that so long as we have, I think the first criteria is spend the money. spend the money in 1 year and on your energy reduction projects in order to then be able to apply the next year. So,
Or up to $250,000 is self-explanatory.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
so.
We won't have a trouble spending 140. No. Everybody said, no,
We had
no,
no
no
trouble.
problem. No
Not at
problem
all.
there. Well, that's good. That's good news. I think the effort put forth by all the department heads in MAPC and LELD is commendable. So, board members, questions?
No, I'm just really excited about this, and I was curious kind of how it would work on prioritizing the projects, but Keith, you answered that, so thank you. Great job, guys.
It was we took the spreadsheet, there was Axum did the first draft, we pulled together with a second draft that Nick and Scott had worked on, and all the affected departments reviewed that, and we agreed on the priorities, and it was a great mutual undertaking.
Great,
Nice.
fantastic.
Mr. Ravello?
Axon mentioned $250,000 limit. Is that an annual limit or a lifetime limit?
Annual. So
good.
as long as you spend down the funds, it's of course up to DOER, but it's their discretion of how much they're willing to grant, but you can apply for up to $250,000.
Okay, thank you. Keith, in the Town of Littleton's energy reduction plan, there's appendices for 2 letters, one by you and one by the school superintendent.
Yes,
That you've adopted these?
yes.
Those letters forthcoming?
Well, after you vote tonight, I can do so, and Kelly is aware that his
The school department's committed to signing.
determination is needed as well, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I understand he knows his determination is needed. Has he committed to signing?
Oh, yes, he has,
Okay, thank you.
yes. I don't have the letter, nor have I signed mine, but I will sign mine promptly
Promise to
after
sign this,
tonight.
That's all I need.
I'll even sign his.
Mr. DeCoste?
Keith, either you or maybe Axum can answer this question. Is it 51 communities that are currently enrolled in the Green Communities program?
110?
Okay, but 51 got additional grants last year.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, for the competitive grants.
Right, so it is pretty competitive.
136 right now.
136 enrolled, 51 got it,
36
so,
now, okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for all your work and time for everybody that was involved.
Just one last question out of me. You all set?
Yeah, thank you.
The Sustainability Committee, were they involved at all, too? Yes, they engaged?
We have copied the Sustainability
Okay.
Committee folks. They sort of brought us to the table, I'm sorry for not mentioning them now. It was the request of the Sustainability Committee that we go after the grant to put the Green Communities application together, which was the event. I mean, and it really helped to have a group championing that effort, and so we're very happy to be able to bring it across the goal line.
Nice, nice. Any comments? Scott, sustainability, anybody? Okay. Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize submission to the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, DOER, of the Town of Littleton's application under the Green Communities Program, addressing all 5 program criteria: 1, as-of-right siting; 2, expedited application; 3, energy reduction plan; 4, fuel-efficient vehicle policy; and 5, stretch energy code.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very
Nice
much.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Littleton Boxborough Solar Initiative, Littleton Electric Light Department, rate structure. That's right.
So, maybe Sarah, do you want to start with just an update on
Oh, sure, there you go.
the program?
Sure.
Again, it was something that the Sustainability Committee brought us, and we're...
Right, so I was here, I think it was April or May. Just when we were starting, we were coordinating with the Boxborough Energy Committee, who had sort of kicked this off, and we joined together with them. At that point, we were putting together requests for proposals to find an installer for the program. Since then, that's gone out. We had 5 responses, 3 that met the criteria for the program. And after an exhaustive review, New England Clean Energy was selected as our installer. And we've been working since then with them since. Joanne Derry is the other Littleton solar coach. We're working with 2 solar coaches from Foxborough also. We have set a goal of hitting Tier 5. It's a 5-tier program. The more kilowatts installed, the lower the price goes for everyone. And beyond that, we set a goal of installing 50 systems in the 2 towns. We kicked off the program with a community meeting at the end of June. Throughout the summer, we've done a ton of outreach. We've done Third Thursdays, the country fair, gone to the transfer station. We've done educational programming with LCTV and with the library. You've probably seen signs around, hopefully you have. We've got yard signs, we have a gauge sign showing where we are, and there's an over-the-road banner that will be going back up by the end of the month. We've done advertising funded from the installer. They've sent out postcards targeting some of the better routes in the towns. We've put door hangers out to try to spread the word. We have a lot of social media going on. We have a Facebook page with 167 followers. I do a weekly e-newsletter that has 253 subscribers. And we have our littleboxsolar.com website. Everyone should go there, sign up for the newsletter, like the Facebook page, and spread the word to everyone, because we are coming up on a deadline on Friday. October 9th is the date for everyone to call and get their site visit scheduled. That gives enough time for everyone to get their visit scheduled, get through the pipeline of paperwork, permits, everything, so that the contract can be signed by the end of the program, which is at the end of October. Now, the big reveal, so we're currently at Tier 4. We're at, it's even been, I think, up since I gave you the sheet for in your packet. So we're at 110.22 kilowatts right now. There are 15 systems contracted. 6 of them are in Littleton. 7 systems are now on the roof. I actually think it's 8, as I drove by another one today that looked like it was done. 1 system has actually been turned on in Boxborough. There are over 135, I know there are more than that by today, site visits either done or scheduled. Just because it might not mean a lot to a lot of people, 110 kilowatts is actually 76 metric tons of carbon offset. It's the equivalent of driving a passenger car over 180,000 miles, switching out almost 2,000 incandescent lamps for compact fluorescents. Just give you an idea of what we're trying to do here. It's funny that's where we stand. People really need to get that call in by the end of this week, and the program will be ending at the end of the month, so everyone needs to think about it, think about what they want to do, get their sunshine on the roof.
Nice. And what was your website again, just so folks?
littleboxsolar.com.
Perfect. Board members, questions? When we're reading through this, I was intrigued by the part about the new roof guarantee, because that was one of my biggest questions. I think I talked to Joanne on Thursday once, and in the real estate business, the questions we have from home inspectors who some of them are very negative to this, believe it or not, because, you put it on, you need a new roof, they'll take it off and so forth, but it's all spelled out right here how it's paid for. So, of course, it was on the last page, reading through the whole thing, I found it on the last page. It was good to know.
Yeah, they're providing us some really good guarantees. There's a 20-year leak guarantee. They're providing a 20-year production guarantee. Those are really, really fantastic things for them to have included.
Nice.
I was curious how many of it actually signed up, so you answered that question. And so it's probably a little too early to start looking at results from the one guy that just flipped it on. That was my other question, what's actually happening, so.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Sarah, when you're here back in April, as you say, and ask for the support of the board, you mentioned a $100,000 grant to be applied to this program. What's the status of that grant?
I believe what you might be referring to was you guys were thinking about having that money available for rebates, and I believe you did not do that program.
Correct.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is what the Sustainability Committee told this board, because Littleton Light was not here that evening. So I understand what you're saying, that they had perhaps thought of it, but it was presented by the Sustainability Committee that evening.
That was on the table.
Yeah.
We
It
had no
didn't
control
happen.
over it.
Okay.
Didn't happen, no. In April, we were told that the electric department would be taking up those proposals in the following month or so, and they took them up or took no action on them.
Good, thanks.
Mr. DeCoste.
No, I did have some questions, and I asked for you guys to come forward, and then there was actually an information meeting, I think, the next night or the two nights later, so I did go to that and got a lot of my questions answered. New England
New England Clean Energy.
Clean Energy is the company that won the bid with Little Black Solar, and one of the principals from that company was at that meeting and addressed the things that, Joe, I had a lot of same questions about, if you're putting holes in a roof, what happens when we get a monsoon, like South Carolina's just gone through. So a lot of those questions were answered, and as long as that information's out there, and we have a reputable company that's coming into our town, not taking advantage of anybody.
Right.
I was going to say seniors, but I guess
Anybody.
yeah, you always worry about
Sure.
people are coming in, contractors coming in, that it's not a fly-by-night, and the organization's been around for a while, and it seems like a pretty reputable firm.
This organization has one of the highest ratings on the sites that I can't think of
Yeah,
it.
the sites that evaluate, like it's sort of the Yelp of solar power. They get the best scores on it.
Yeah, they're really fantastic company.
So it was just one comment for me. At a third Thursday, I went down and saw, and they pulled up, my house on Google Maps and all this, and where is it located. And believe it or not, my house wasn't suitable for it, because of the way it was facing. But it was pretty interesting how their theory was, and they told
Are
me.
you living in a shadow?
Yeah, well, I'm always living in the shadow.
I say,
Mr.
well, there's
Knox,
sunshine in the house.
we have royalty here sitting at the table, Mr. Knox. So it was interesting. I thought it very informative, at the third Thursday, to have folks come out and answer those questions right away, to actually show you what you're talking about. So I thought it was very good. Unfortunately, I can't partake.
If anyone's curious, south facing, look at your roof between 9 and 3. That's the key when you want to have sun.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right. Any other questions or comments?
Is Scott going to talk, are you going to speak
Yeah,
about
and
that
we were,
metering?
yeah, we were hoping for an
Ready,
update
yeah.
too on
Yep.
the
All right, so
rate structure.
I guess thank you very for the,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you very much for the update.
It was enlightening.
Okay, Sonny.
Oh, he's getting
Really?
good down there too. It's rubbing on. You're sitting next to him. It happens,
All right, moving on. Scott, you want to talk about the
Yeah, so
light structure?
our role, the light department's role in all this is really to provide two things. We provide interconnection so that people, when they put, solar panels on their buildings, they can interconnect our system. So the two are tied together, and we have a process by which there's an application process, and, we have certain guidelines to interconnect our system, because at times it does generate power onto the grid. We have an interconnection application and an agreement with homeowners. The other thing that started back in last winter with the Boxborough Energy Committee, when this kind of came up, was that we had designated a certain amount of power to come from solar, and a few years ago we had already hit that limit. Not really different than like National Grid and NSTAR. They kind of had caps also. So we were in the process of looking at opening our net metering rate up, which is our rate that provides for people to generate their own power. So they generate their own power, they feed power onto our system, the meter goes both ways. So we were looking at that last winter into this spring, and that's when you know, it was Solarized Boxborough at the time, and they were starting to look at this process. And, you know, we started looking at what the net metering rate may look like. And we're also looking at an energy efficiency program, which we're just getting ready to roll out in a few weeks. You know, how we could help out people with solar. And, you know, there's some other municipal light departments that do some rebates and things like that. We ended up not, the $100,000 that you alluded to, we ended up kind of pulling that back because we thought it would be better to put that money toward a community solar project, which we're going to undertake next year, I think, which would be the light department builds a solar project, and then people that can't put solar on their roof for whatever reason can buy into this solar community project. So that's why we kind of pulled the $100,000 back and said we're going to put it in so all of our customers can have benefit of solar power. But we developed a net metering rate for people that can do it. Businesses, we've got, I think the business is over 1 megawatt of solar power right now, which is a lot. You know, that's really our role in it. We don't get involved really with any developer directly. We keep our own customers. The developer deals with the customer. You know, we don't do any of the economics for the developers. We kind of stay away from that. We don't endorse any. We are not affiliated with any developer. So our role is strictly as a utility is we interconnect with you know, the solar generation, and we provide net metering. So that's really, you know, we get a lot of calls on this little box solar. There are some people that think we're affiliated with it, and they're asking us questions, and there's a lot of the questions we can't answer because we don't really ever see the economics behind it when they come out and do an assessment. So, you know, it's a little tougher in our town because our rates are so low. You know, our residential rate is, right now, is about the lowest in the state. And
speaking of that,
well, the next 3 months we're dropping 20%. So going into the winter because we you know, the price of power is low. You know, we've done a good job managing that. So we're going to be dropping down. So we'll definitely be the lowest in the state by quite a bit.
Nice.
So looking at that, you know, the solar isn't economically wise, isn't as good. But, you know, you're looking out 20 years.
Right.
So, you know, a few years at the beginning the payoff may stretch out a little bit longer, but, you know,
and
it's hard to look out.
Solar is part of our portfolio.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's part of our, as well as wind, water, you know, it's part of our power portfolio.
I mean, you know, the participation through the businesses in town is tremendous. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, and we purchase all the power out of the 4 megawatt at Distribution Drive, that big solar project that went in there. We just bought another contract. They're putting a big solar farm out in Spencer, Mass. That we bought part of that. So, you know, we've got a lot going on. We've got a, you know, wind farm up in Maine. We buy hydros all over New England. We have, right now, about 10% of our power comes from renewables. So, you know, we support it directly by buying power from it.
Sure.
You know, so we're all for it. We're all for renewable.
It's good news. It's good news.
So
20% is fantastic, especially, you know, the report that came out on elder affairs and, you know, the fact that a lot of folks in town on single incomes and retired and the elderly, you know, they're just barely squeaking by, so that's a big help right there, so
yeah.
that's very much appreciative. Board members, questions?
I just want to commend you all for using that grant money for the entire community, rather than a half dozen or dozen or so ratepayers. All the ratepayers in the town get the benefit by it, so that's well done. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be rolling that out next year. Our green reward, we're calling it a green rewards. That's our energy efficiency program. We're going to be rolling out in a few weeks, and you know, we're going to have flyers out, put a banner up and all that, but that's going to be, you know, discounted LED bulbs and water products and energy audits, free energy audits for homes, you know,
When's that rolling out?
in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the week of October 13th, we're going to roll that out. So, and we're going to just keep expanding that, you know, in the next year. We're looking at like a shade tree program and all that. So, you know, we're pretty excited about it. I
I
think
think
it'll
the
be
last
really-
time was the early 90s, I think, Littleton Electric did it, because I participated in that energy audit for the house.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty
So-
comprehensive and pretty cool
Yeah.
how they do it.
Yeah. So
Back
we're-
then.
I'll totally do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And when can we find out a little bit more about the community project?
well, it's interesting. We just, the board just agreed to hire an architect to look at putting a storage building in behind our garage right now. And we're looking at situating that so we can put solar panels up on the roof. So we're just in the process of looking at an architect now to kind of give us a feasibility of putting that in. But the plan would be to break ground in the spring and have it in, you know, by this time next year. You know? And we want to make it kind of an expandable program. So as people sign up, you know, we'll have different tiers and we can start adding panels to it. So if
Nice.
you can't put them on your own roof, you can buy one.
Yeah.
Buy one there. So.
Nice.
Awesome.
Any other questions, Chuck?
No, thank you.
All right.
We're going to be going, actually through the green communities too. Part of that grant money for the first year is LED streetlights.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
know.
Like to
which
see
Huge difference.
saves the town on the streetlight bill.
There's one on
It
Jennifer.
saves us too because of maintenance.
There's one on Jennifer Street, and it's just amazing every time I walk under it just to see.
We could have
The
used all the
difference.
140 just on the streetlights, but we'll do part of it this year, and then we will have, we think, a competitive application for subsequent years for more funding for LED
What you want
streetlights.
to do is, part of the Green Rewards program, is come down and get some of these bulbs, because when I put them in my house, I couldn't believe that I was working in the dark, literally. Replaced the bulbs and it was unbelievable. what
They dimmable yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're all
They
dimmable.
are?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great.
We're going to sell the 40 watt, 60 watt, 100 watt standard bulb, and then the 65 watt recessed bulb to start with, and they're all going to be $2 a piece.
Yeah.
All of them dimmable?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's dimmable
Yeah.
now.
Moly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so,
So you better get there quick.
Yeah, really.
Good news.
That's fantastic.
yeah, we're
Great job, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Sarah. We really appreciate your guys' work, too. It's great to see, you know, we talk about, let's get a committee together, let's get a committee. There's a lot of committees, and some go dormant and really don't do anything. To see you guys active out in the community is fantastic, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well said.
And of course, LELD,
Yes, great job.
always good. Board of Commissioners, thanks. All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We have a public hearing at 7:30, so I'm going to jump around a little bit here. Let's go to 6A.
You don't wanna get
Oh, did you want to do the
I'm sorry.
PMDC?
Oh, how can I forget you, Joe? Sorry, buddy. Yeah.
Couldn't see him that fast. In ones.
All right, so we got the Permanent Municipal Building Committee in to talk about the facilities update on the Council on Aging kitchen. Long process, bidding process. I know you guys, 3 times? 3 times, 4 times, 4 times modified the document for the RFR, and finally it got out, and I'll let you give us an update.
Well, you're running late, so I need to give you Reader's Digest version. The regular version.
We got time.
Okay. You're right. We've been out to bid on it 4 to 5 times.
I can't hear you.
We've been out to bid 4 or 5 times. Okay, is that better? I'll talk up, you know me.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Thing to keep in mind is that we're bidding in a very, very tight community out there as far as construction goes. Everybody's busy, and a good example is our last go-around. We got a bid in. We're talking about a $125,000 project, and we got a bid in for $242,000. That was our only bid. So you can see what it's like. But anyway, we have worked on it. Unfortunately, we spent $23,500 to date on architectural fees. And that is really ridiculous for a project this size. We've had 7 changes of drawings, which cost the money. The bottom line is this. We modified with the assistance, suggestion of the Council on Aging, we modified the bid from a full, complete do-over of the kitchen to where we modified it, so we're going to make it so it's now legal. It's going to have all the stuff that makes it legal. That is, it's going to have a three-bay sink. It's going to have hand washing. It's going to have a grease trap. And above all, it's going to have an answer system over the stove. That now makes it so it's a legal system. It meets the code. That's the minimum we've gone for. We're hoping when we get this done, I'll project, I'll tell you a few minutes, to have some money left over and some money coming hopefully in November that we can go get them the rest of the stuff they want. All right? But right now, that's all it consists of. As I said, we spent $23,500 on engineering services, and that's, we got one more bill that we have to pay, and then we got a construction bill of $2,000, but that's an oversee bill. The bid came in at $93,900 for what I just told you we were doing, and we put in a 10% contingency because prices are bouncing all over the place. And so we add all those up, comes out to $108,923, taken away from the $123,200 plus we got left over. We'll end up with $14,299 when it's all done. Now, hopefully we get at the meeting next month, special town meeting, if we get the $38,425 we've asked for, we think we can finish some key things. One of the key things is to get an electric range. We didn't include the range this time because the bids were coming in out of sight. We do have a couple other sources we're looking at now for the range. And then we get some other stuff. They need tables. They want some shades, not shades, but cabinets. So we'll put those in, and I think the $52,000 will enable us to get back to where we started, and they'll be happy. But they're happy with this right now. Now we met with the contractor today, and we met with the president and treasurer. Contracts all signed. Last week, the building committee, special meeting, we approved it. And he's going to get back to us in 3 to 5 days with the schedule. And we really pushed him on the schedule. And his problem is that he wants to go back and see his lead time. He thinks he's okay to the lead time, but he's concerned about the pricing. Because it's too late, he's already bid it. So 3 to 5 days we'll have a schedule. And we really pushed him, but he couldn't get a schedule out on today. I told him he had to get it in 5 days. That's the good news, maybe. I got to tell you the bad news, so it's all together. He doesn't think he'll finish this project for 10 to 12 weeks. And that's because he's really busy, but he took the job on, he accepted it, and I told him, he was really impressed, I told him this was going on for a long time, and he'd be a hero if he came in by November, but I don't think it's going to happen. So with that, I think you ought to be aware that one major change that had to be made, when we decided to put the answer system in to meet the requirement, we thought we could weld the back of the building. But unfortunately, because there were some equipment located outside the building, we could not go out. So we have to go up through the TV studio. So we had to redesign some of it to get up to the TV studio. And there's 2 things that have to go up. You got to have one to take the smoke out, and you have to bring in fresh air now. The law requires you to bring fresh air. So there'll be a double going up and fresh air coming back. And that took quite a bit of changing to do. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
Any questions? Well, I know you have a question. I can't get to November 11th, I'm sorry.
It's been all summer, right? I mean, the kitchen's been down all summer.
Yes,
That's a long time.
right.
Unfortunately, as you mentioned earlier, the situation was, we had to bid 4 times and go back to the drawing board on many occasions. So that's an unfortunate thing. Joe, any questions?
No, I'm just happy it's going to finally get done. It's been a long time, just like you said, and going through all the engineering, all the changes. It seemed like every time you turned your head, it was being delayed again, so hopefully it gets done quickly now.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you for that update. That ventilation system going through the LCTV, is that something that will be noticeable, or is it kind of off to the...
No, the people, council on aging, the TV studio people know, they were part of it. We know where it's going to go.
Great.
It's not going to be seen. In fact, it's going to be hidden.
It's great, because we love our LCTV. Right, guys? Okay, no, that's good, thank you.
Going to be right in the middle of the...
We love our seniors, too.
It's always a tree at every show.
Thanks for getting in our contract. And PMBC, that as soon as they find out the schedule, they pass to Keith, and Keith just disseminates it to
We'll
us.
get it to you.
Appreciate that greatly.
After we get it to Pam.
Ms. Pam, I know, is eager for it also. And then Joe Calentro, the pit bull on him to get him delivered sooner, please.
I was sitting on the PNBC with these guys when this first came up a few years ago. And so it is, Joe, it is nice to see it come into fruition. And I think that if you are able to get, I remember then there was a lot of things that we were hoping we could include that were on the wish list. And hopefully that $52,000 will enable you to get the cabinets and all the other, the tables and chairs and things that they were hoping to get initially. So hopefully you're able to make that happen. I'm sure that the pit bull of the job, you'll be able to do it, Joe. But thank you to the whole PNBC and to all those that were involved, because it has been a long process.
I meant to introduce Carl Bryant. He's the, unfortunately, he got handled this job.
If I had all my hair, but it's...
If I may.
I'm not volunteering for the PMBC. I'm rough right now, yeah.
As Chuck said, he's been on the PMBC. Carl is on it now for about 5 years now. I've been on it some years back. Many others in town have been on it for a while. Joe's been on it since the town was incorporated. But very sincerely, Joe has been a stalwart on a lot of these projects for us in the town here. I really want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
A question for you, Bonnie. We're all set for contracts and all that, ready to...
Already signed.
Fantastic. All right.
She
Thank you,
did-
gentlemen.
She really helped us out the rest of this contract. too,
Yeah.
so we
He's done all the... he's-
Sure.
We appreciate it.
And hang tight, COA. I know it's a tough situation for you guys, traveling back and forth from, Shattuck Street. Yeah. So, the seniors in town really depend on you. I know that for a fact through experience, too. And
Well, the unfortunate thing is that, having the kitchen where it is provided such a social center, and that did not move to Pine
Right.
Tree Park.
Right.
So there's a huge loss, and
Right.
it's been really noticeable.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's coming though.
Oh, we know,
Finally,
we
there's a
know.
little glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel at last.
We know.
We've been
So-
looking for that light for a long
I
time.
know you have. Well, it's now starting to shimmer,
Yeah.
and it'll get brighter and brighter in the very near future.
So when do you think will be, we got November 11th,
No,
No,
it's
no, no,
10
no,
to
no.
12 weeks.
so
Yeah.
10 to 12 weeks.
It'll be the first of the year, it sounds like.
What we'll do is, when Joe finally gets the schedule, we'll make sure that Mr. Bergman sends it out to all the department heads so they're aware of it, because I'm sure all the department heads get those questions also. So we'll make sure everybody's aware of it. We'll post it on the website also.
Okay?
All right, thanks,
Thank
folks.
you. And we need a stove.
Joe, we need the stove more than we do the tables right now.
Much more.
Much more.
The stove doesn't work at all.
I'm the cook.
We have a 7:30 public hearing.
Yes, remember that. When you come in for lunch.
I don't see anything getting done here in 5 minutes. No minutes.
Did you want to have public input?
Oh, there you go. Thank you very much there, Mr. Bergman. What we can do is, any public input for tonight? Okay, seeing none, member input. Mr. Knox.
Nothing tonight.
I don't think I have anything, other than I missed you guys.
5 more minutes.
And, I missed y'all. I watched the replay. It was a good meeting. I still read the packet. It was a good doobie.
Nice.
That's all I got.
I'll let Mr. DeCoste talk about the football. Mr. Avella?
The Master Plan Update Steering Committee is reaching a major milestone. Tomorrow evening, in room 307 is where we'll have our next meeting at 7 p.m. We anticipate being able to vote on the RFP and get that out the door, the request for proposal, that will seek inputs from planners throughout the Commonwealth that can help us as consultants as we go about developing the master plan that we anticipate having ready for town meeting on May of 17. So we anticipate it to be a 2-year process, about 6 months into that, so about a year and a half to go. We look for an award based on that RFP that we hope to vote on tomorrow evening, come January, give or take, of this year, of the next coming year. So hope you can make it to room 307 so you can see what we're trying to do for the town here when it comes to master planning.
And your committee is now full, right?
Yes, we are. We have 12
Great,
members.
Great. Mr. DeCoste?
Since you teed it up, I will say congratulations to the football team for going 4-0. They were up 32-0 after one quarter of play on Friday night, and they ended up beating Quabbin, who was up in division, 40-0 on Friday night. So congratulations to the team and to all the teams that are doing well, to all the athletes and to all the band, and for all the kids for getting back to school and getting back in the swing. Since I mentioned the football team, I've been working the sidelines, working the chains on the sidelines, and seeing the wear and tear on that field. This is a conversation that I think we're going to have to bring up sooner than later. That field is definitely going to need some attention, whether it's something that we do in place, do some repairs to that facility, or perhaps we need to take a look at. I know there was a turf conversation last year, and it wasn't something that was well received based on certain circumstances, but I think it's something that, as a board, we need to start taking a look at and finding out what we're going to do for our interscholastic sports and for the fields, not just at Alumni Field, but at the high school as well. I think we need to look at the whole package and make sure that we're putting our kids in the best playing situations and in the safest conditions possible.
Sounds good. Thank you. I just have a few comments. It's a great time of year. I love fall. I would suggest get out to your local farm stands. All the produce and everything that's coming through right now is fantastic. Along with the orchard, go up and visit Nagog and get some apples.
The apples are so good right now. Honeycrisp, oh,
Fantastic.
get it.
They are great. So I'd suggest get out, visit your local farmers, look at your local farm stands, and get out and pick some apples up in Nagog. So it's a great time of year. And we all know what's coming. All right, we have a 7:30 public hearing, and let's see what we got. We're 7:30 according to my watch. Mr. Clerk, would you do the honors of reading the public hearing notice?
Yes, sir. Board of Selectmen public hearing, all alcoholic beverages license application, Great Road Hospitality Incorporated, doing business as Great Road Kitchen, 495 Great Road, a.k.a. 613 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts. The Littleton Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, October 5th, 2015, at 7:30 p.m. in Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, to act on all alcoholic restaurant license application under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, submitted by Mount Palmer, manager of Great Road Hospitality Incorporated, doing business as Great Road Kitchen, the property located at 495 Great Road, a.k.a. 613 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts. and known as The Point. A mixed-use development comprising of 7 lots and approximately 90.27 acres of land shown on parcels 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, and 1-7 on assessment map R18. The applicant is seeking approval for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 12 a.m. at the premises described as a single-story retail space identified as Unit D2-1, with approximately 7,500 leasable square feet consisting of a main dining room, outdoor patio, bar, private dining room, kitchen, and other storage areas in the building, now existing or hereinafter constructed at 495 Great Road, a.k.a. 613 Constitution Avenue, Littleton. Comments therein may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen, Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by noon on Friday, October 2nd, 2015, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, James Carr, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ravello. The hearing is now open. Mr. Bergman, any mail?
We received no public comments, although we did receive sign-off from the various departments, including police and building inspector, fire chief.
Okay. The petition is before us. If you'd introduce yourself,
Good evening,
appreciate it.
Cheryl Gould, attorney for the petitioner. This is Mark Palmer, and he's the owner-manager of Great Road Hospitality, Inc. They're going to do business as Great Road Kitchen. This is Chris Frothingham, and he's an officer director of the corporation, the chef, and will also be a manager, licensed under the alcohol beverage license if you see fit to grant them one. They're here before you tonight seeking an all-alcohol beverage license for the facility, and the good news is that means restaurants are really coming to the point. I'm going to have him tell you his concept and what he's got for a history on restaurateuring.
Fantastic.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello.
So we want to bring an oyster bar and grill, something you normally see in an urban environment. I've been lucky enough to be working in mostly cities most of my life, Boston, Manhattan, Singapore, London. Moved out to Groton, so I'm very local. My kids are getting a little old, and I don't want to go into the city anymore. So I opened up a restaurant in Lexington, Mass. 3 years ago, Vinebrook Tavern. And we're doing well there with a similar concept. It's a little bit more meat-driven. It's not an oyster bar, but it is a very family-friendly bar and dining room. Most more of a restaurant than a bar. And now we want to bring a similar concept here to Littleton. I live all 10 minutes away, so it's really convenient for me. We're lucky enough, the development's great, and we have a beautiful building where we have a decent-sized outdoor patio, about 30 seats or so. And we'll hopefully give Littleton a very vibrant bar scene with mixology and some of the things that you normally have to drive into Boston to get. A really wonderful wine list, Wine by the Glass program, things you don't see in the suburbs as often, and then about 140-seat dining room, so not too big but not too small, but in fitting with the rest of the restaurants in that Point project, they're all about the same size. We're a very immediate price point, same thing we do in Lexington, because we know it's a lot of families out here. I need a place where I bring my kids, I always speak to that, so we have a very big children's menu. We try to get the families out there together. Most of the dining hours will be done at 10. We don't expect, I know the burbs, I know, I live 4 minutes from Gibbet Hill, so I know it kind of starts at 5, it ends at 9. We'll probably keep the bar up until midnight, just Fridays and Saturdays. We do that in Lexington now. We close up at 9 or 10 o'clock most of the days of the week. We'll stay open if there's a need, but I think more often than not, we'll be at 10 o'clock. But we apply for the late license in case we need it. We never want to turn away business, I just don't expect it. And still a lot better than being open till 3 a.m. in Boston, so I don't miss those days. But it's a beautiful development. I'm sure you've all been up. I was there today with the developer looking at the space. We're coming along pretty quickly. If we get lucky, we're going to try and open up in December if you grant us the license. We want to be open ahead of the rest of the stores on purpose, so people think of us as a destination restaurant and not just some place to go within that entire project. So it gives us a leg up, so to speak, on the rest of the businesses that come in. Sam Park, the developer, I talked to him today, expects most of the area we're in to be finished in the spring. So we'll be open during construction for their places, but far enough away from it that it really shouldn't affect our business. So we're really excited to be here. It's for me kind of a dream having a restaurant almost in my hometown, but you can't get much closer, Groton to Littleton. So we've got a lot of local people very excited. Chef Chris has recently moved to Westford, so we brought him along. He's the chef at Vinebrook Tavern as well. So we've got this great little commute now, right? We're right on the line. You take Great Road right to Lexington, and we're right there.
Nice.
So I made it in 29 minutes today, so no traffic. If we can just stop the construction in Bedford. Yeah, right. So that's basically what we're doing. Any questions that I could answer for you?
Sure. Mr. Knox, question from the board.
I was able earlier to go through with Mr. Park, so I knew exactly which location you have, and
Yeah.
he was excited, this is like 3 months ago, all excited what was going to be done there. I mean, we probably spent 15 minutes in your unit alone as he talked about things. So as far as a resident goes in the select, I'm pleased that this is happening, and it'll be a great situation for the town.
Ms. Hebert?
I've got a few things for you. First of all, this is really good timing. I just started liking oysters like about within the last year or so of my life, so.
It's all about you.
Well, it just happens to be working for me. I love the fact that you'll have outdoor seating. We don't have enough of that around here. It's really hard to get, so thank you for thinking of that. And then just maybe lastly, super excited to support a fellow UNH alumni. So I graduated, I see you got your master's in secondary education in 2001. I graduated in 2000, I was 2001, so we're probably there at the same time. Psyched to see someone come back to local roots where they are, start a business that's really super impressive. I mean, in fact, I'd love to just talk to you about your experience there, but...
Talk of the town, sounds like an episode.
Doesn't it? I know, a local TV show that highlights new businesses and things like that. Would love to get you on there, but to Chuck's point, I am just super excited about this.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mr. Ravello?
Welcome. If I may ask, what are your employment plans as far as trying to attract employees from the town of Littleton to work in your facility?
Yeah, we're gonna put the ads out probably in about another 4 weeks or so. It's funny, you can't hire the staff too far in advance because they find other jobs. Staffing is probably the hardest challenge we face these days. We're always like this close to not being understaffed in Lexington because we compete with Burlington. So out here, what we expect to do is we're gonna find parents who want to supplement their income and do side jobs. We do that sometimes as well. We don't really have colleges because that's a great source, so we'll have to wait and see if we're going to have to use some of the local, the Groton School and some of the other schools as the kids get older, if they can work some summer help. But I think we're going to be pulling people from a decent radius. I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting people from 20, 25 miles away. Being a new restaurant, coming in with a little bit of, cachet behind it, I think people expect it to be very busy, and wait staff and people like that go where the money is. So, I think that's where it's going to come from, the surrounding miles, but it's going to be a blend of people looking to supplement their income, more so than it would be as you get close to the city and you have professionals and that's all they do for a living. We're going to have to deal with a lot of part-time help, I believe.
Thank you. We have in town now a Littleton Business Association, and asked you to consider it. Councilor Cool can give you a great deal of information on it. She's a member.
Good.
Thank you, and welcome.
Mr. DeCoste?
Nice plug. The word cachet, I think, is a good way to describe it. I think having a restaurant in Littleton that's got some of your lineage with Todd English, Michael Schlau, it's cool. So I like what these guys have said as far as look forward to having a place to go that's different than like a Chili's or love Greg at the sub shop. But
I'm glad Sam, when we talked about it at first, he was against bringing in chains, and he had to work. He deserves some credit too, because chains are easy to work with because they have so much money. So you want to put a Cheesecake Factory in or an Uno's in, they're just going to write the check and come. Local restaurants, we have local investors, so we're using people who live in actually Northborough and Groton and other surrounding towns to invest in our restaurants. So Sam deserves some credit too for sticking with that and saying, I want some local people in here. I don't want to do just chains, because he had lots of chains approaching him that wanted our spot. So he worked with us. So that's, again, I'm just so excited to be here because I consider this, it's so close to Groton, so I tell everyone I'm a hometown guy. So I couldn't be more excited to see kids I coach in Little League coming to the restaurant after the games now. So.
Yeah, that's great. No, we're excited about it. I'll have to try oysters again.
Very good. We got the two chiefs. Any comments? Fire, police?
Not at all.
No, okay, fantastic. I think Selectman Hebert said it at a recent meeting, would encourage you to take a look at our local farmers. I spoke a little bit earlier about it. See if you can do some business with our local farmers. They work very hard. It's a proud community of farmers that Littleton is, and would love to see you go out and see if you can engage some of them too. That would be fantastic. And your comment about having a great site down there, we continue to see folks like you come before us and hear updates from Sam. the town started this whole project with the overlay, and that was the success, and that's what really brought salmon to town. So we got to thank all the townspeople for that. So it's great to have you. Congratulations. Before we close the hearing, does anybody else have any comments? Then I'll look for a motion to close the hearing. All those in favor? Aye. I'll open it up to public comment. Any questions, concerns from the public? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the applications of Great Road Hospitality, Inc., Mark Palmer, manager, doing business at Great Road Kitchen for 613.
So we just didn't read the part on the particular license. So go to that, we'll
And so-
do the liquor, and then we'll come back and read the notice on the...
Okay. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the applications of Great Road Hospitality, Inc., Mark Palmer, manager, doing business as Great Road Kitchen for 613 Constitution Ave, The Point. 1, for all alcoholic restaurant license application under Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, subsection 12, for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 12 a.m. at the premises described as a single-story retail space identified as Unit D21, or 2D, with approximately 7,500 leasable square feet consisting of a main dining room, outdoor patio, bar, private dining room, kitchen, and other storage areas, with issuance of said license to be subject of ABCC approval and passing all local inspections.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So, congratulations. We're going to get into the second half of this, which is the particular, Mr. Clerk.
Board of Selectmen public hearing, common victicular license application, Great Road Hospitality, Inc., doing business as Great Road Kitchen, 495 Great Road, a.k.a. 613 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts. The Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, October 5th, 2015, at 7:30 p.m. in the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, to act on the application for a common particular license by Mark Palmer, manager of Great Road Hospitality, Inc., doing business as Great Road Kitchen for the property located at 495 Great Road, a.k.a. 613 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts. The hours of operation will be Monday through Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 12 a.m. Comments therein may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen, Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by no later than Friday, October 2nd, 2015, or in person at the hearing. All interested parties are invited to attend. Littleton Board of Selectmen, James Carr, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vella. Mr. Bergman, any comments, public comment, any letters? Thank you. The chiefs in the back, any issues? Thank you. Board members, I know we just went through a lengthy discussion. Any comments?
Nope.
I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment? Seeing none, I would look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the applications of Great Road Hospitality, Inc., Mark Palmer, manager, doing business as Great Road Kitchen for 613 Constitution Ave, Point, for a common particular under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 6, license for the same premises.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, we look forward to visiting your restaurant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you. It's nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
So we have, our next public hearing is scheduled for 7:45 for the K property. We've got a couple minutes recess here. I'm gonna go get a glass of water.
UIO.
The right side's the ABC and the other one's the local.
Do it wrong. Help me.
This side here. Make sure.
Oh. Oh my God, there's, what do I?
I think they should put the ABC on that side, but.
Yeah, yeah. Glad you mentioned that.
Thank you.
Sign your life for me. Don't read what it says, just sign.
Is that a tablet?
Yeah, I know.
Welcome back, Mr. Knox.
Thanks.
Isn't that nice?
I see you can point that out.
Melissa, you gonna sign this?
It's not my strength in life.
You have Tourette's?
I bring a lot to the table. Signatures is not one of them.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Looks like next.
It's the dead end road.
All right, I have 7:45. So we're now going to have a public hearing on the K property for Mass General Law C.61B, exercise right of first refusal, or exercise or waive the first right of refusal, town meeting election to exercise. Mr. Clerk, would you do the honors, please?
Board of Selectmen public hearing on whether to exercise or waive town's right of first refusal pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 61B, Section 9, on a 43-acre parcel of land owned by the Charles F. K. Irrevocable Trust, located along Grimes Lane, shown as Assessors Map R08, Parcel 13, Littleton, Massachusetts. The Littleton Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, October 5, 2015, at 7:45 p.m. in the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Massachusetts, to consider whether to exercise or waive the town's right of first refusal under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 61B, Section 9, for the bona fide offer price of $850,000 for the property located along Grimes Lane in Littleton, Massachusetts, comprising approximately 43 acres as shown on Assessors Map R08, Parcel 13, and known as the K property. Notice of intent to sell submitted by Brenda S. Diana, trustee of the Charles F. K. Irrevocable Trust, to the Board of Selectmen on August 31st, 2015. Request of the town waive its right of first refusal over the property pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 61B, Section 9, and thereby permit the trust to convey the land for residential uses. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by noon on Friday, October 2nd, 2015, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, James Carr, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Bergman, any comment? The hearing is now open.
We did not receive any written comments prior to the package.
Okay, thank you. Are the petitioners here by any chance? Any of the petitioners? No? Okay. So, board members, we have another parcel that, is coming up before us. Again, this is, we had a discussion about this property, our last meeting, and the public hearing is tonight. Looking for any comments from the board in regards to this property?
Mr. Chairman, I'm surprised that the petitioners aren't here. It's such a large piece of property, and I think it's being included into another piece of property, if I'm correct. And I thought it'd be good for them to be here to explain why they want this.
I would have to agree with that, Mr. Knox.
Their attorney was aware of the hearing.
Okay. We'll open it up to the public once we close the hearing for the...
There's a map.
Yep. Thank you. Ms. Hebert, any...
No, not really. I went down there just recently, took a peek. It's lovely, lovely lands. I had the same question, yeah.
Yep. Mr. Ravello?
That's definitely scenic. Hasn't generated anywhere near the interest that Cooper Farm did. But I think Cooper Farm's certainly been on people's radars for a very long time here in town. So it was just gave good sense that folks were aware of that and did come out and express their view on it. This particular property, both in conjunction with Joe has mentioned that the petitioner is not here this evening. So certainly as we go through this, I'm going to ask that we even defer a vote on it this evening for two purposes. One is that the petitioner is actually here to explain their thoughts on this. And the other is, again, generate a little bit more information for the townsfolk that in case that interest does get generated, similar or at least as partially as much as Cooper, people have an opportunity to give us their thoughts on it.
So appreciate that.
Like my colleagues, I've been down there, I've walked onto the land, and I think I was on the right parcel, but I may have been trespassing. I apologize to the abutters. But it's actually the same family, right? But I certainly want to hear what the abutters have to say.
Yep.
I am, from a conservation standpoint, I think it is beautiful land. I think we all agree that it's scenic. There's not a whole lot we can do with it other than to retain it as conservation land. I don't see any opportunity to do any type of active recreation on the parcel. But I'm definitely interested in hearing what the abutters have to say to help us to determine what is, what their wishes are, and to determine whether or not it is a parcel that will be something we would want to exercise our right.
Okay. I too feel the same way. I think the petitioner should be here. I think the town has a right to at least hear what they want to do and why they want to do it. And I know it's their property and they have every right to sell it. But for us to ask us to waive our first right and not show up is a little bit disappointing, so.
Is the only frontage on this property on Grimes or?
Yes, it's only on Grimes that the front, the Foster Street is here, you see where the little icon is. And there are a couple of lots that separate Foster Street from this parcel. So the only frontage that it has is right here. Right above the two.
The frontage, it does abut Grimes Lane. There
Yeah,
is
there is
frontage
that
on
much
Grimes Lane.
frontage on Grimes Lane, and that's it.
But then it becomes contiguous, or is contiguous with Turkey.
Right, and we're aware because the planning board has shared with us that there's a preliminary subdivision plan that's been filed now for the Durkee Farm property, which is here. The entity which has submitted that subdivision application to the planning board is comprised of the same two individuals who are listed as the proposed buyers in the purchase and sales agreement, same address. So it's presumably that whatever is intended would be something, I'm just noticing that they're
Yeah, just
right
happen
next
to
to each
notice
other,
it's a
and
big-
so
it's a
we
big
could,
picture,
we
and-
might presume that, especially where, I mean, for the number of acres that are involved here, 43 acres, I dare say for only $850,000, that it, I mean, the property's use may be, the best use for that particular property might be for whatever the intentions are of the abutter.
Sure.
As opposed to some third party that might come along and acquire the property, if it were not the town. I don't think there's much that anyone else could do with it.
Yes, good question, if I may. The adjacent property to Foster Street, what is the status of those parcels?
I'm not aware. They're not.
There's a right-of-way between the two properties that I'm aware of into that area, which can be developed as a road, is my understanding, a town road.
Yeah, they're not, to my understanding, they're not 61A or any property like that. The Durkee farm property was 61A up until a year and a half ago. The K property is under 61B currently.
Any other questions, comments, discussions?
Maybe from Bonnie. How much money would be turned back to the town on the taxes?
Yeah, it's in the packet here. It's,
If we're removed, Joe? If we're removed, you mean?
Yes, I think so.
got 37,800. It's buried in the middle. It's right after Bonnie's memo. And these,
Any other comments from the board? Before we open it up to the public, I'd look for a motion to close this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll have public input right now. Just please stand up, state your name and your address, please. Yes, sir.
My name's Ed Foltz. I live at 619 Newtown Road, and while this property may appear to be essentially or very closely landlocked, I would urge you to think twice about passing on this. We already know Durkee may or may not be developed. You put the houses in there that they're talking about, you take a nice quiet area, I mean, there's turkeys and other animals in there, and you're going to make it a madhouse of houses. And our schools are going to get a lot more children out of those houses. And we already know residential homes cost more in taxes than they bring in. So we've had this discussion in the past. We've done an awesome job of protecting open land. Normally, I'm out there saying, cut the budget, cut the budget, cut the budget. But when it comes to open space, this is one of the only areas that I am a fan of an override, if it came down to that. I'm not recommending it, but I'm saying if it was, we don't have the money unless. This is one of the few things that I feel is worthy of that, because it's a long-term purchase to help maintain the quality and the character of the town. 119 is getting destroyed. Other parts of the town are getting a lot of development pressure. This is an area that's very quiet, plus the roads are kind of small in that area as well. I would urge you to consider purchasing this property, or at least not letting it get developed.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
I'm Joanne Geary from Harwood Avenue, and I was just, looking at the parcel on this map here, which dates from, I think, 1995, so it's a 20-year-old map. And right in this area is where the Durkee Farm is, that's probably going to be developed. The parcel you're talking about now is here. Look at this whole section. It's bounded by Route 2, Foster Street. This is Harwood Avenue, it's Hadawan Road and Newtown Road. This is like the last really big parcel that doesn't have a ton of roads going through it. I mean, it's got Grimes Lane, but that's it. And so in my view, it would be a big mistake to let this be developed. It's part of this large chunk of open space. It's Littleton's last big piece that we could conceivably get, say, a landscape-style grant for, maybe from Trust for Public Lands. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other landowners in there. A deal would have to be put together. It wouldn't be a simple thing. But maybe at least the town could consider assigning the right of first refusal to a conservation group that could put that kind of deal together. Because it's really just too bad that the Durkee Farm is already gone. It's like the gateway to Grimes Lane. I don't know if you've ever gone down there, but it's a beautiful little part of town, and it would really be a shame to develop that. It's the last big piece we've got that's not developed.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Edward Mish, I live in Grimes Lane. That little parcel borders one of the town forests over there. And it also, across the street from Grimes Lane, is another parcel that the town owns. So in theory, you could have a situation where you could go from Route 2 straight over to Howard Avenue. And it is a nice piece of property. They've gone up there and they've dug test holes. It's not the best of land, but you could bring in fill. My feeling is they're buying that property for a second exit so they don't have a dead-end road. So you can go straight out, because you can't have a dead-end road. And that's what they're proposing in their preliminary plan. So if they go out through the existing little easement to Foster Street, that's when they can develop Durkee's property better. So I think we should buy that. And it's relatively cheap for the amount of property you're getting. Over 40 acres for $850. That's a good deal.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sure. Don McIver, 43 Foster Street. And I did send an email late, and it actually has a map that shows a lot more than this. Is it possible you could pull it up on the second page?
I haven't checked my email since the meeting started, but
Right.
I will.
I realize that, but it's important because actually the 4 or 5 public parcels of land that touch this, and that doesn't really show that. And I think it's worthwhile, including 2 you're going to have an executive session about later, so I think it would make sense. Let me just say, I do have a page testimony, and what I say at the end, let me start off at the end, is that main questions exist regarding the disposition of the cave property, either exercising your right of first refusal, waiving it, or transferring it, which doesn't require a special town meeting or any expense. And the wait period is 120 days. That takes you towards the end of December. There are many groups that have questions that need to really spend some time at this. because of its location and what it touches. And I think they should be afforded time to do that. I also asked there be a site walk out there so people know what they're talking about, be staked out and walk it and see what's there. And the groups in particular that need to make some sort of recommendation, Open Space Committee, Conservation Commission, Park and Recreation Department. You know, remember, we put $1 million aside as part of the Omni deal. This is the planning board did for active recreation. If they want to acquire something, this is perhaps a possibility, and that money's under your control. And also the qualified nonprofit conservation groups, such as Sudbury Valley Trustees.
Is this your map?
Yes, thank you. And Littleton Conservation Trust. So just starting off in the south, you will see there are 2 pink parcels by Grimes Lane. Thank you. And those are owned by the Conservation Commission. They're about 1 acre each. They're small, but they're conservation land. If you go up to the right to the town forest, there, it's 6 parcels that are town forest. It touches that. One possibility is having a corridor that would run in between there, people looking ways getting to the train station. So those are 3 parcels. Go over to the left to the Hergay property, which I have in orange, outlined in orange, and butts the Cape property.
Okay.
That's the whole northern border of the Cape property. There are 20 acres there. Now, that was under Chapter 61, I think it was in 2003, and the town transferred the right of first refusal to me at the Littleton Conservation Trust. And I think there were 8 days to go to acquire money to buy 20 acres. And being a nonprofit without an endowment, we couldn't do that. So we brought in Sudbury Valley trustees. I think probably the last day of that 120 days, they acquired it, they bought it, and they protected it. And then they sold the protected area to a neighbor there, which is Charles Hergay, who's now in foreclosure. And that means either the town could own it in 12 months or he could pay back taxes, but still be protected. And just to remind you, there's that large plot up above is 60 acres, the one house in is Mr. Perino's land, and there was federal, state, and local enforcement actions against that, and that caused a great concern to all the people there. So Sudbury Valley trustees actually swooped in, invested their own money, protected it, and actually protected the area from being developed in a way that was very detrimental to all the neighbors. So here we have the Cave property, 43 acres, possibly being joined to the Durkee area, which has a plan for 36 houses. 36 is the yield of dwellings there, and if I remember correctly from the Sanderson analysis, that's about $200,000 per year of subsidized money for residential development, providing all the services. So, you know, there are some concerns there. I think we should walk it. One possibility that's been mentioned is trying to find a corridor on the eastern side from the town of Littleton parcels, those 2 parcels of Grimes Lane, up to the town forest. That would help secure the area, especially you've heard from Mr. Mish and also Doug Peak is another neighbor there. They're concerned what happens to their property. That might help secure it. Maybe you could make a deal that if something were provided as a corridor there, then maybe you'd be willing to waive the right of first refusal in exchange. And it would cost no money. And the other possibility I mentioned is there's concern about where playing athletic fields and so on. I don't know if that would work, but that certainly should be looked at. So in summary, I'll give you each a copy of what I said and the map. In summary, it's worth to continue this. We have 120 days to make a decision. Neighbors are concerned. There's some public benefit of doing things. There may be a way that doesn't cost any money. I don't know, but that should be explored. So that's where I am. Please continue this. Please have a site walk. It would be good to stake it out and have all the interested parties do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have one.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gary Wilson, property owner 35 Grimes Lane. Kind of nestled right next to the southern piece that the town owns now. Kind of the same feelings that are already echoed. I am a little disturbed that the developer isn't here to explain what's going on there. We have to assume probably that there's going to be more housing put in there, or more houses, and the exit road makes sense. But without them here, it's kind of difficult to say what they're going to use the space for. So obviously, with more than likely the house is going in on Grimes Lane at the Durkee property, this creates a natural balance, a buffer, if you will, between the 30-plus homes, the beautiful Mish property, as well as the town forest. So it makes sense to me to either have the town buy it for whatever purpose, whether it's bike path that can run through here or something besides more housing through there, which doesn't make much sense financially for the town or not. But without the developer here, I have no idea what else to say about it. Besides, I can only say that they want to put more homes in there, and that's probably not a good idea. I don't think anybody here could say that could potentially be a good idea. Besides the developer themselves. So that's pretty much my stake. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Joanne. Right up back. Rick.
Rick Finley, 46 Beaverbrook Road. I'm on the Conservation Trust and have been working on trails, connectivity, working with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, and I think they would be very interested in the potential for a commuter trail, perhaps a bike trail, that would go all the way to Harwood. I've been trying to figure out how to do all these things, and this just falls into place. It's really be a great opportunity to take advantage of it if we can. As well, I understand that there's a grant program that's administered through the state for town forests. So this is an extension of our town forest. We may be able to get some money.
Very good, thank you. Yes, sir.
I apologize, I'm David Guthrie, I'm the developer on the Durkee Farm piece, also this K parcel as well. You had asked for the petitioner, which I'm not, but that's why I stood up at that time.
Okay.
So I'm here to answer whatever questions you may have.
All right. Okay. Let's go back for public comment, then we can direct some questions to you, I'm sure.
Joanne Deary, again, from Harwood Avenue, and I don't know if I should admit this or not, but I know from personal experience, there's great snowshoeing and cross-country skiing on the parcel.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, board members, you have questions for the developer? Why don't you come on up?
I can tell you the story of how it came to us. There's a parcel that is adjacent to the Durkee parcel that we needed for access, second means of egress. We had a couple other options. That was the preferred location. So we approached the K's. They did not want to separate their land out of the trust and sell it separately. We didn't have interest in that back piece. So we agreed to the whole thing. That's why the number is low. We tested some of it. It's wet. It didn't yield very well, but we figured we didn't have the option to buy that egress out to Taylor Street, or Foster rather, as part of the Durkee parcel.
So what are you looking to do with the property itself that we see up on there?
We have no immediate plans. Like I said, we had to buy all their land or none of their land. We wanted the parcel that brought us out from Durkee Farm to Foster Street.
Yeah.
That was our focus, but they didn't want to separate the two out. So we put this piece on agreement. It's not part of our initial Durkee Farm subdivision. It is land, and we will look at it someday. Like I said, our original testing didn't go terribly well. That's why the number's set where it is.
Was that something we could explore with the trust? Because would you mind just pointing out how much of that property you would require for your second egress? Because if I'm understanding you
None
correctly...
of it. We don't need any of it. There's a parcel here that's not contiguous, that wasn't in the chapter land that we bought here. It's a 50-foot right-of-way out of here. The Durkees thought they owned it. Upon title search, they did not own it. Mr. K owned it, his family trust. And we bought a piece here that's coming out. But it was in their trust and they didn't want to, and there's a piece down here that's all wet that they asked us to buy. They didn't want to sell any of their land separately.
Was that something we could explore with the trust? Based on that information, as to if the town decided they wanted to exercise the right, as to, I'm getting from your comments at the very least, you really didn't want all that land, you just wanted the access.
Well, you have first right of refusal the way we've structured it. We end up with our parcel down here, which is what we wanted.
Right.
And you end
get
up
that,
with your first right of refusal.
And you don't need this property in order to do what you want on...
We do not need the K property to do the Durkee Farm. Not that particular parcel.
And you've already got your second egress, so that land has been separated.
Yes, it was separated. But in their minds, that was all the land they owned.
It's all enough.
Yep.
That's something we could have town council explore and at least.
What's your objective?
The objective is to identify options.
Yep.
And what options may exist on it, so that we keep it alive for the moment at the very least, versus denying, because if they want to sell it as just one piece, and if we exercise the right and it takes that excess away.
No, we'll not do that, sir. No, we've structured it so that we're going to end up with our piece, whether we buy the back piece or you buy the back
Okay,
piece.
that's important information.
Yep.
Thank
So
you.
there's no means of egress. I heard someone mention it here. We couldn't find it coming out of this piece onto Foster. I think there's a license, a parcel that's licensed. We can't build a road over that. Our piece is down here. It's independent of this piece, but it was in their global land bank, if you will. Our deal is we are buying this. Once you either buy this or we buy it. We end up with this. We end up with it either way, which is the parcel we really wanted.
So that land was
And that
separated
other
out.
parcel was not in
Land was
chapter
separated,
properties, so
chapter
that's
land.
why we never get
Know
a
about it.
notice.
And it wasn't contiguous. Had it been contiguous and not in chapter land, it would have had to be presented to you.
Right.
It was not contiguous.
Yes, sir. To answer your question, my only objective is, let's keep the options available to us.
I got you.
And ask town council to explore it.
And then maybe, what's that? You know, the possibility, see what we can do, maybe work with you in the case, have a three-party deal of some sort. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, just a comment in general, thinking about how the Hergay land was done. It was 20 acres in general, and there was concern about protecting a particular area. That's why the land trust with revolving fund for land purchases was able to buy it, protect what needed to be protected, and then resell it with the protection in place. That might work with the K land, but it'd be a matter of sitting down with some land trusts to have some revolving funds, and perhaps the buyer here before us would be interested in retaining some of it, but willing to give up a certain amount that could be protected. And that might be the easiest way to go. And that is through a transfer of right of first refusal to a land trust, but they would need a guarantee they could sell the rest of the land. But that's exactly what happened with Hergay land.
Sure, I think, I'm glad you finally came up. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
know.
I wasn't your petitioner, so I
Right.
didn't feel
Gotcha.
appropriate at that point to say
Gotcha.
that.
So I think that, I'll refer to the board, but I think we need to continue this, and let's get town council involved and see if we can talk to everybody, the parties, and see if we can strike up some type of deal for not only the neighbors, but the town too.
And just to make everyone aware, the timetable that we're currently working under, that we did get a valid notice. We know what a not valid notice looks like, because we get those too, but we got a valid notice under the statute, which means that the 120-day clock is ticking, and the 120 days in which the right of first refusal can be exercised expires on December 29th of this year. So, and exercising the right of first refusal requires not only action by this board, but also by town meeting. And if we are acquiring it with the people's money, a ballot question, because our policy says it would have to be acquired with the debt exclusion. If we did the option, with one of the options that I heard John mention, if the board were to to assign the ability to exercise the right of first refusal to a qualifying entity, whether that's the local conservation trust or Sudbury Valley trustees or some other qualified entity, they would have to consummate the deal by the deadline, by December 29th, unless, through discussions with the seller and the buyer, that deadline can be moved to to some different date. And I don't know if I mean, the current structure allows, I forget what the date of the potential closing was in the deal. I'm sure it says it in the P&S agreement, but...
We anticipated you using you full-time, so our closing's 30 days after that.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Go ahead, Don.
Sure. If it were extended, that might give opportunity to apply for this grant for extending town forests, which is essentially state money, federal money delegated to the state, and that might give the capability. Also, on accepting, being assigned the right of first refusal, that doesn't require town meeting or any of those
Right, only
other
this
things.
board.
Right.
It only requires action by this board.
Right, and in the past, that hasn't been, that may be the easiest approach.
So let's, why don't we, do we have a member that would be interested in sitting with these folks in the town council? Would you do it, or you want to do it? Otherwise, I'll do it.
Well, between the two of us.
Okay.
Figure it out.
So what we'll do is, when is our next meeting, Keith?
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight. All right, let's see if we can come back, let's have this agendaed again, engage town council, and get some discussion going.
Do you prefer I attend that night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fine.
Go ahead, absolutely.
And we'll be in touch in the meantime, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Appreciate you being here.
And thanks for offering the information, really do appreciate that. I just ask you this, anything that we've discussed this evening so far on this, do you find objectionable in any way?
Not at all.
Super, thank you.
I think that's the intent of the 61B process, right?
Yep.
Is so the town can view it to see if it works to their benefit.
Thanks very much.
I believe you have my email.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Tim. Take care.
All right, so we'll get this on our next agenda. Ed, did you have another comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just,
Your last one.
I was kind of, it sounded like you were talking about working with the developer and what have you. It's unfortunate that Durkee is gone. I'm really unfortunate. I would hope, though, that we would not be looking at finding some way to give the developer access to pieces of the land or to pave over parts of the land or any of that. It's protected land. He said it's wet, it's terrible, you can't build on it, but how many parcels have we seen in town that we've all driven by and said, there's no way they'll build a house there. Next thing you know, you've got a house, or two, or look up in Shaker, at the end of Shaker Lane. You got 3 houses where there shouldn't have been any. So I would please, don't go into this trying to think about ways to help the developer, because it abuts a humongous piece of 36-house property. They're gonna go into it, despite what he says. He's not the controller, he's just the guy that builds the roads and the houses. So that's all. I just wanted to urge.
And he is the developer. He's the guy that's named in the purchase and sale.
He
He's
said
the
he
developer.
wasn't the petitioner.
He's not.
No, the petitioner is the seller.
Yeah, the
He's the
seller.
buyer.
Okay, I apologize. I thought he was just
We
the guy
were
with
speaking in code
roads.
unnecessarily.
Well, no, I didn't understand. I apologize. I got it wrong. But in any case, it doesn't change what I'm trying to say.
You've heard tonight from folks in the audience, from the board, there are definitely options, and,
Yeah.
we're looking to do the right thing for the town.
All right.
The whole town. Nothing but the town.
So help you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you all. Moving on. 6A, November 2nd, 2015, special town meeting. Article recommendations.
Actually, you could do two things, and the other is assignments, when it comes to it. You can do that now or 2 weeks from tonight, but there are 4 articles that the board has not yet adopted recommendations on. And just to see what progress we can make on those, because a week from tomorrow, we will be sending the booklet to the printer with whatever current information we have. Finance Committee meets tomorrow night to adopt recommendations on as many of the financial articles as they can. So we'll have whatever information is available as of next Tuesday that goes out to the voters. So bills of prior years, there are none, so we will be, at this point, we're still taking no action on that article. The FY 2016 budget amendments article, Article 2, we have not, I'm sorry, that's Article 4, we have not yet adopted recommendations on. Bonnie had prepared for our last meeting a set of proposed transfers, which would do some things that the board, including some that the board hasn't yet weighed in on, and so we're looking for some direction. There are transfers that are proposed within the LCTV budget to do additional salary and expense costs.
We already spoke about that, too. you know,
Yeah,
the
we
pay.
had talked about it with LCTV at the last meeting, but we didn't take it, and we acted on their other articles, but not on this one.
Highway we haven't talked about.
We've not talked about highway.
Roadway or the short-term debt expenses,
Right.
I guess. So what is the highway? I mean, should Jim be here, or can you handle that, Bonnie?
I can tell you exactly what
Okay,
they are.
go ahead.
The highway salary adjustments include two things. One is for the transfer station increase in hours, which was adopted at the hearing. So we do need to adjust the budget to increase that. However, that will be offset by revenue that's generated with the fees that you set. The other part of the salary is for engineering staff. It's anticipated for half of the fiscal year, which would then be, budgeted for the full fiscal year in fiscal 2017. I think that's the item that the board hasn't reviewed yet at this point. The highway expenses is the other part of the transfer station operation increase that needs to happen.
Okay.
So that's that one. Stormwater expenses, I believe that's
That's our annual participation in the Northern Middlesex Stormwater Collaborative, which has been grant funded.
So why the change? Why do we need the transfer?
We didn't have an appropriation for that.
How was it paid previously?
Grants.
We
Yeah,
had grants,
in the
okay.
past, yeah.
So the transfer station is covered by fees. So the only thing that we're really looking at is that town engineer. I'd like to have, and I'm the one that put it off. Again, I see no real dire need, but I think we can agenda the item with the entire board being here. Let's see what the agenda looks like going into our next meeting. If we can make it fit, we can make it fit. Otherwise, we can always bump that out. I don't see it as a big issue.
We can certainly bring it to the next meeting, and Jim Clyde will be able to be here 2 weeks from tonight, and that would be great to have the discussion. The only, if you were to approve it, then we would need to amend the motion. Let's say if we have a motion tonight.
That's going to print?
In a booklet that goes to print, it won't include this. It won't include the money needed to transfer for the town engineer position, because you haven't voted that tonight. It will include the amounts for the other items.
Yep.
And if you subsequently decided 2 weeks from tonight that you wanted to pursue the town engineer now, rather than waiting for the 2017 budget process, for example, then we would bring an amended motion on the floor of town meeting in the handout that gets presented at town meeting. But
Sure.
we'll have that.
And again, my feeling is, level staffing, level funding, so, for fiscal year 16. But that's a discussion we can have at
Yeah, I
our
think
next
it's
meeting.
an important discussion to have.
Yep,
'Cause I think,
absolutely.
in
I
signing the
gotcha.
warrants, there's been a
So what I think we can do tonight is, let's, if the board sees fit, we can make a recommendation for Article 4 based on the transfer station and the stormwater,
And the LCTV.
and the LCTV, stormwater, and why don't we get into short-term debt expenses too?
We're
That's
just
the
using
funding
that to
source.
fund the stormwater.
Oh, I get you,
So-
okay.
So
That's a
that's
transfer to fund, okay. Any objections to that, board members?
So we already do everything except take the engineer out?
Correct.
Yes, we will adjust the money.
I saw Bonnie doing the math over there.
Yeah. So in the highway, you would have, instead of the 54,971 increase, you'd need to change that to 15,846, which would adjust the 2016 adjusted budget. Instead of being 820,000, it would be 780,935.
He's writing it down, looks like he's going to make the motion. Any other comments, board members? Look for a motion then. Oh, wait a second, that's just Article 4, let's get into 8 and 11. Article 8 is NAGOG. I know, Bonnie, we've been in talk, I know you have a rough draft.
Very rough.
How long do you think that will take to go out, a 30-day, 20-day?
Well, I have no idea what terms need to be
Okay.
incorporated into that before we release it, so I think we need to have
A quick sit down.
somebody look at it, because
Sure.
I'm not.
You know, there is a group,
Review.
the group that is chaired by Jamie Cruz. I've reached out to Jamie to convene that group for the agricultural land. And problem is, it's a very busy time for farmers right now.
I think the main issue that we'll see, because fundamentally what we're looking for is a vote from town meeting to authorize the selectmen to award a lease on whatever terms and
Gotcha.
conditions you come up with. Point one. Point two, however, is there have been some discussions, which now the Conservation Commission has asked to meet with the board for site visit, with some question about whether one of the lots that's right now in the lease premises, whether there are concerns about that lot, which might lead to an amendment on the floor if the article goes forward in this form, whether an amendment might be offered on the floor to delete a lot from that description.
Okay.
So, and we just want to make sure that that discussion takes place before November 2nd on the floor of town meeting.
So what I'm hearing is we can continue on that trek and set up a couple of meetings. It's more of a placeholder to ask the town that the Board of Selectmen be able to award the lease with some modifications based on meetings for town.
Yeah, I think it would be very wise before town meeting to have, to meet with the Conservation Commission. They've asked you for site visits to this property on the 23rd or the 30th.
Yep.
Sooner the
Of
better.
October.
Of October, right.
Yes.
So the sooner the better, so that if there's, frankly, if there's no objection, if there's no reason not to agree to take that lot out, then that's one less
Gotcha.
issue that we are debating on town meeting
Gotcha.
for.
Yep.
I just wanted to say, I happened to go over there today, and I just pass these around, you can take a look at them. It's actually, I was looking this time at the Woodland Park, which is, I had never been there before, but it's actually gorgeous. And would be a wonderful place for a trail system, and in addition to our conservation land that we're currently accessing, across the street. So I would.
Well, I think we'll sit down, we'll have those meetings, and as Mr. Bergman said, we will definitely engage Conservation Commission.
Keith.
Sure.
You were telling me, I think, that this was actually municipally, it wasn't part of the lease?
No, it is part of the lease, but what we had town council do is to go through and identify what the status was of each of the parcels. There are a number of parcels in the lease. Some of them are subject of APR, of agricultural preservation restrictions. This one's not. This one appears to be held for general municipal purposes. There are other parcels that are even in the lease that are held for conservation, which are conservation restrictions and held by the Conservation Commission. I don't know how, I don't quite understand how, if that's what the town meeting voted in 2000, to
This mixed match of...
I mean, why would you move out two parcels to the Conservation Commission, yet still keep them nominally in the lease?
Gotcha. That's a discussion we can
Yeah,
definitely
we
have.
can work those out.
Yeah, we can work that out.
Is there any way? I think that had to do with granting, I think we got money for those.
We can figure that out in our meetings.
Just so long as we're, on the same page when we're in front of the voters.
Go ahead.
Is there any way that we can get one map that shows all
Yeah,
the
I'm trying to
parcels?
do that,
Because
yeah.
this is,
I wanna-
going
I know.
through, I can't figure out how to
No, in fact,
paste this with that.
I had someone draw one for me, not joking, a huge map.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I'll bring it in, we can use it.
Yeah, because I'm frankly, I'm trying to get a small one done so I can put it in the voter information book too, because it's big. I haven't quite figured it out.
All right, so, Article 11, Town Bylaw for Discharge Municipal Stormwater. This was brought up at the last
Yeah,
Selectmen's meeting.
my strong recommendation on this, now that I had some time to think about, never ask the town meeting for the answer yes unless you're prepared for the answer no, and I'm not prepared for a no at the town meeting. I think that that the issue, we are not dealing with the prospective, this article does not deal with the prospective 2016 EPA permit, which is going to be a bear. There's an update which is in this beacon, which is a hopeful sign, perhaps. The Mass Municipal Association as a group wants to try to get the EPA to issue one permit to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that covers all the cities and towns, rather than each of us getting our own permit from EPA. And that, I think that would bode well for how that goes forward. However, this article is only about cleanup from what should have happened 12 years ago with a 2003 permit. And Town Council has told us that there are two fixes that are possible. One is to adopt a bylaw at town meeting, and the other is to have an empowered board adopt regulations. And I would and the Board of Selectmen is one of them. And I would respectfully suggest that it may be more prudent to craft a set of regulations that are suitable for adoption by the board to nominally comply with the 2003 permit, rather than bringing an issue to town meeting, which may be more than the voters are.
What would those regulations look like, and can town council,
He's got, I had town council prepare ended up being a very long memo with a lot of regulations. Lots of stuff in it.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that it would be well if the board held a public hearing on a proposed set of regulations. We could have town council come to that, he could walk you through what it is, that may be a more appropriate format for addressing, we're essentially trying to address an issue only from compliance with the 2003 permit. We're not trying to do anything new with stormwater yet.
Right.
We know that something new is going to happen with stormwater in the future, and whatever it is, we're not going to like that. But we're already 12 years into that 2003 permit, and we've been doing fine, but town council, in an abundance of caution, has suggested that we need to have either a bylaw or a regulation adopted, and I think the
regulation
is the shorter, we put it in the warrant because we hadn't really talked about it at all, but we wanted to preserve the option. I don't see any advantage to
So as a
bringing it to
placeholder, shall we vote on Article 11, then have the public hearing with town council, and just,
You could have, I think at this point, you could say that you'll have a recommendation at town meeting on Article 11, but in the meantime, I think it would be well, even for our next meeting, if we held a public hearing on the regulations.
Well, let's see how that agenda looks as it fills up really quick.
It is.
So, but in essence of time, as I mentioned earlier, if we got to bump some other things out, we can bump some other things out.
The ones that are time sensitive.
This is time sensitive, so. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What drives the urgency? Saying time sensitive?
Oh, town meeting.
No, okay.
Only that
This town meeting. What drives it for this town meeting?
Only that it's a town meeting. Only that...
The town council has said that this...
Town council has said that it's paperwork that needs to be adjusted. I suppose if town council had said it requires town meeting action, we have a town meeting every 6 months, too. There's no particular urgency about this town meeting. It was simply that we are now aware of it. We're aware that we need to address it, and it had not been on our radar screen even a few months ago.
Okay. So that urgency is not quite as initially depicted.
It's
only if we want.
Under town council's eyes,
town council's telling you that, that if EPA comes and asks to see something and they don't see it, that there's a risk, and that, and what he's also outlined in this now very long memo and with attachments, that the other way to address that concern, his concern, on our behalf, is to just to have this board adopt some regulations.
And I understand the expediency of doing it that way versus letting the people have an opportunity to vote on how they get their money spent in town. So a rather lengthy memo, as you said. We received that Friday. Town meeting's 4 weeks from today. Do I have that right?
Yeah,
That's about right. So we're looking at cramming in a public meeting between now and then, or a public hearing between now and then?
I don't even think that you need to do that. I think you could just as easily, I think we could just as easily make the policy decision that whatever the resolution to this matter is, the compliance with the 2003 permit, the only policy decision you need to make is, all right, well, we'll deal with it as a regulation rather than a bylaw. That gives this board any amount of time that you want, including, any number of months, and certainly not in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. We also have to assess the risk here. I mean, I know that he said that if they come in, we run the risk of getting slapped, but he also said that there is no agency that is policing this right now.
Well, and that we've been submitting our reports every year,
we're not gonna raise any red flags.
up till now,
Just that the change that's coming, they're going to start, you know what I mean?
They're to-
That could trigger some
Yeah,
other
But they're
issues
gonna go
coming.
out to communities that haven't been complying to this point, in my opinion.
Right.
Could
So I would
be
gauge
true.
the risk that way,
Right.
and say that, okay,
I
we can,
agree.
there's plausible deniability for us to say, listen, we didn't want to rush into this, we've been compliant up to this point, we wanted to make sure that we did it right.
The genesis of my concern is pulling something away from the town that the folks can vote on.
Gotcha.
Because it's expedient. Wrong reason. Okay?
Okay.
If we can formulate a very strong reason as to why we should make it regulatory versus a bylaw by the town voting at a town meeting, I could buy into that. But right now, I've heard the argument to do it is because it's more expedient for a board to do it.
Well, I think what Keith was saying earlier is to be able to bring it to the town meeting floor to say, a decision has been made for regulatory instead of a town bylaw, explain to the town that we're going the regulatory process.
So at town meeting,
It's always easier for a board to adopt regulations than for town meeting, because if you ever need to amend them, you can amend them on 2 weeks' notice rather than...
I understand that, and once again, while not the specific word, but expedience is I think, the basis of your argument. And to go to town meeting in November and saying, hey, we made a decision for you, we're going to do it regulatory, again, because it's more expedient, and we didn't want you to vote on it, because you may not vote the way we want you to vote.
Well, for some reason, town meeting's never been asked in 12 years.
Well,
to do it,
it hasn't been brought up until
Yeah.
this past month or so, is that correct?
So why don't we do this? Why don't we...
I think it was brought up about a decade ago.
Well,
Yeah.
So,
it's before you were even born.
Let's get town council in, talk about it, talk about the difference between the...
it would be wise for us to have a further discussion with town
Absolutely.
council 2 weeks from tonight, so we are on the same page of what we do tell the voters when we go to November 2nd.
I agree.
What present to the voters.
Yep.
Not necessarily just tell, but what we present to the voters. If
Well,
it makes a
we-
very big difference.
Right. Well, we'll be telling them either this is the bylaw that you can adopt, or here are some regulations. Some conversation will happen.
Thank you.
All right, so to recap, the bills of prior year, not necessary at this point. The adjustments we talked about, Nagog Hill Orchard, we'll have some subsequent meetings, but this is to ask the town to allow the Board of Selectmen to engage in a lease with, after a bidding process, and the town bylaw/regulation discharge to municipal storm drain system.
So you do want 11?
Yes. As a
And one
placeholder.
still as well? Or
Yes.
no?
No, one is off.
Okay.
But do you have the numbers for the, I know PJ wrote them down.
Yeah.
No.
For the adjustments?
No, I didn't, not write any of that down.
Okay. Go ahead, PJ, you're up.
All right. Yeah, you put me on the spot here.
Yes, I did.
So you wanted to read that, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
We didn't have the figures put in here anyway, but that's all right. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to support the following articles and direct the preparation of motions be moved and seconded by said board. Article 1, bill of prior years. Article 4, fiscal year 2016 budget amendments, as amended this evening by Assistant Town Administrator for Finance, Bonnie. Article 8, Nagog Hill Orchard leases. Article 11, Town Bylaw, discharge municipal storm drain system.
Second.
Moving and second, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, you want to go through the assignments, or you want to wait until, are we,
Got a schedule.
Good.
that's it, right? We have 11?
There's 11. Yep.
All right. Well, since we're not going to be doing any bills of prior year, I'll take that one.
Well done.
You're gonna do number 8, right?
I will do number 8, yes.
Going to go down, or just?
Yeah,
You're gonna do number 5, Jim, too,
I
right?
am doing number 5. Chief King.
I'm happy to do LCTV.
Elder Council on Aging.
Are we going down, or
Yeah, revolving funds,
I'll do it?
budget amendments, I'll do it.
I'll sit back.
I got 5. Looks like Mr. DeCosta's
Yeah,
number
Chuck
6.
wants one.
Really wants to see that.
What did I get?
Number 5, number 6, personnel bylaw amendments.
Yes.
7, supplemental funding 2016 capital items, available funds.
That's what all.
PJ, I got number 8. PJ number 9. Council on Aging, membership 9 to 11.
I'll take that one.
Mr. Knox. And
I'll take drain
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
water, baby.
All right, moving on to 7A.
Object.
Stayed quiet. I just stayed low.
Selectmen's administrative policies, there's been a discussion about agendas. Mr. Avella, how would you like to start the conversation on agendas?
As I mentioned when I sent my note to Keith, Keith does an excellent job in prepping us with the agendas beforehand, with just a little bit of extra information attached to each particular agenda item. What I've seen in the past is just a short description and not something that becomes exclusive, so some wordsmithing may be necessary on some of the information Keith provides. But I'm going to just go tonight, and we look at number 4, public hearings, and I know that statute is how these are particularly indexed, but certainly that gives a pretty good indication of the information that's going to happen on that particular public hearing on the all-alcohol license for Mount Palmer and the Great Road Kitchen. Now, when we look at the next one down also, we had in the special town meeting, special town election, and when we looked at the one we're just discussing right now, Selectmen Administrative Policies, Procedures of the Board, Agenda Procedures, a short little blurb there would have been that certain agenda items have come under discussion, and the board will address them this evening as how the agenda will be formed, as an example. So now where it becomes exclusive, that it prevents us from doing business, but that it's more informative for folks that they know actually what's going to happen in a particular budget item, agenda item.
Okay.
And I'll use one more example, if I may, the PMBC, Council on Aging Kitchen. We could have added a little bit the information we had at hand when this went to print, or about the time it was going to go to print, is that bids have been received, PMBC has acted on it, and they'll be briefing the Selectmen on the status of the kitchen. This is an example of some of that expanded information.
My only concern at all was that we would limit ourselves in what we can talk about, but if it's just going to be the way that you're saying it, we're not doing that. I didn't want to be too specific, and then we couldn't
And I agree with you.
couldn't expand.
So now it becomes exclusive of all other possibilities, but it just gives a broad outline as to what the particular item may be. Some are certainly very self-explanatory. The number 6, when we're going to be looking at the special town meeting recommendations, one you may have gone to Nagog Hill Orchard leases, as far as information that could have gone on there, for example, is the current lease that first came into effect, was it 2002? I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember. 2000, thank you. And board is considering other options on leasing. This is one further example.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Knox, any other comment?
None.
Ms. Hebert?
I fully agree. I think just a little more context would be good. I think it's a real careful balancing act, just because things like, the guidelines, the meeting notice must include the particular specific items the chair anticipates will be discussed, rather than a summary statement concerning such items. So we just got to be careful how we summarize it so that it's not a summary, but I think the way you're describing it sounds good.
Mr. DeCoste?
I would argue that this agenda adds a little more detail than we have had in the past, since I've been receiving the agendas. So I think that...
I use it as an example. Tonight's agenda was done.
Is that what that was?
With all of you in mind.
Good. Good, yeah.
Sit, we will.
Sit, sure.
Hey, you all set, Chuck? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where PJ's coming from. I also understand that we don't want to limit ourselves or, eliminate any latitude to be able to comply with open meeting law. So I think what we got tonight is acceptable
Pretty good,
to what we need to put out there.
Okay. My only comments, we'll first let everybody know, there's never been an open meeting law violation. In regards to agendas, I think our agendas have been precise and detailed for the 7 years I've been on this board. And I don't think, I don't think, the first agenda issue was when the audience, I think it was Brian Tarbox, brought it up. Other than that, I haven't heard a peep about our agendas. I think, Keith, if you do a fantastic job on them, tonight's just as good as any other, so if you can continue on that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't see a need for a motion.
Yeah, I don't tell you
to change anything.
Yeah, and I will certainly be mindful in putting the agenda together that if there is additional information that would make it even clearer what it is the board's talking about, that we will err on the side of more information.
Sure, and one of the comments that Mr. Tarbox made was, it would have been nice to know that you were going to vote on at the public hearing tonight. Well, we don't know that all the time. Public hearings are very fluid type testimonial. We listen to the petitioner, we listen to the general public, then the board has to make a decision at that time, so.
Specific to your reference, that's not the real impetus. You've seen it in other boards, committees, it's worked.
Sure.
And people have liked the little extra information. And that wasn't their first reference that evening.
Gotcha. All right, any other comments? All right, very good. Moving on. We are now going into executive session for tax title property. I would look for a motion.
So you
Go
got
to executive session.
Yeah, motion number one.
Motion number one.
Okay.
Article 8.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21, subsection A, Clause 3, to convene an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, since an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board, and not to convene an open session thereafter.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Ebert?
Aye.
Mr. Carr, aye. Mr. Revella?
Aye.
And Mr. DeCoste?
Aye.
We are now in executive session. You may flip the switch.